Joe, as you know, it is October. And October is a very scary month for everyone, quite frankly. Spookiness, horror stories, Halloween, it is all happening. And to continue on with the spirit of October, I do have some stuff concerning the paranormal and paranormal sickness. Now, I have some clips here from a show called The Dead Files. And I like The Dead Files because it's got this guy. He sounds like he's an East Coast guy. He's got that East Coast vibe. He's got the East Coast accent. And he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And he goes out on paranormal investigations with a psychic. They get called into a haunted house. They get asked to evaluate the situation. And this guy is like a former law enforcement guy. And just listen to his voice, Joe, and you know this guy means business.
I'm in San Jose, California, right in the middle of Silicon Valley. I got a call from a guy named Chad. Now, he sounded desperate. Says his house is haunted and he and his partner want out. Only problem, his mom refuses to budge.
My mom turns 73 next month. She already had health problems. Like, I can't just leave the house and then have her be here and stuck with this hot mess.
They seem like good people, and I'm hoping Amy and I can help them out.
So he gets called out on this very interesting case. Two guys, two partners living with one of their moms, and they're just having a lot of paranormal problems out there. I'm not going to go through the whole entire show up and just to the point where they start to feel the effects of all these spirits and entities, and when they start to really encounter problems, and then we'll jump off from there. But here's the second clip. Basically a rundown of what they're experiencing in this house.
Right. And Joseph also has this ability.
So, Chad, do me a favor and give me a list.
They're both psychic sensitives. They both, both the gentleman and his partner, both psychic sensitives. They're able to, at least what they claim at a very early age, able to communicate with the dead and basically sense the unseen. And that is a very particular skill. If you're in a role-playing game, that's like a level 3 or 5 skill. So these guys are fairly advanced, probably level 5 psychics, in my opinion.
Right. And Joseph also has this ability.
So, Chad, do me a favor and give me a list of what you guys are going through.
I love this guy's.
So we're hearing voices.
He's awesome.
Okay.
We're having mood changes and illnesses. We're seeing apparitions and shadow figures. And now it's getting to be physically violent.
You mentioned illnesses. You already told me about your mom's heart attack. Is there something else?
We feel like our immune systems are being worn down.
Okay.
It's like we have extreme nausea, sore throats, but it never materializes into a flu or a cold. It just kind of lingers.
Have you seen a doctor?
I have.
And?
I haven't
Has he
seen
gotten his
health.
he needs a ghost
swings. What are we
vaccine.
talking about as far as?
Well, they're going to get to that. Yeah, there's a lot of ghost sicknesses, ghost vaccines. They're going to get to really diagnosing the ghost problems.
Swings.
Getting into fights more, and it's not like us at all. All of a sudden, deep sadness, depression, very, very high anxiety, and a feeling of doom.
Why don't you guys just get the hell out of here?
Joseph and I want to go.
Get out of here.
This was my mom's forever home. She's not going to be scared out of her home. And I don't want to just pack up and leave her here without figuring out what's going on. So I feel trapped.
I'm going to come in and run the joint for you. I'm going to come in here, tell the ghost who's boss, crack a whip a little bit, tell your mom to shut the fuck up, mind her P's and Q's.
Get the fuck out of the house, ma.
Stop getting sick, ma, all the time. Beat some sense into that woman. He's got that hard-nosed kind of East Coast New Yorker accent, but he loves the paranormal. And they do a pretty good job. So he goes in, this guy goes in, he investigates the situation, talks to the family, kind of gets a lay of the land, and also gets a little history on the property and previous homeowners. And he's done a pretty good job at that. So as you heard in that clip, they're getting sick. They're getting on each other's nerves. They're experiencing various other things. In fact, some of the things that not only they've experienced, but their pets It seems that their pets have been thrown around the house, and they have been harassed in very obvious ways, at least to the homeowners. And they have tracked down, in this clip here, this might be one of the final clips I play from this. So the guy we just heard there, he tracks down the original property owner of this house and the history of what has occurred in and around this property. This is a little bit of a longer clip. It's about two minutes, but it gives a good background of not only are there people getting sick in present day, but in the past too.
What do we know about this guy?
His name was Jose Joaquin Bernal.
This is the original homeowner, original property owner, back in I think the 1800s.
What do we know about this guy?
His name was Jose Joaquin Bernal.
Okay.
And he came to California in 1776 with his family. And he was just 14 years old.
Okay.
And he and his family helped build San Jose. When he became old enough, he joined the Spanish Army. And he was stationed in San Jose to help guard the town.
All right, so now he's a young kid. He's in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after that?
When he turned 23, he got married to a lady named Maria.
Okay.
And they would go on to have 16 children.
16 kids.
Yep.
Wow.
In 1826, he retired from the military.
Okay.
And he moved his family to a 10,000-acre plot of land in South San Jose. He named it Rancho Santa Teresa.
Okay, and this is the same land my clients live on?
That's right.
Corey, you mentioned on the phone that things turned bad for this guy. When did that happen?
In 1828, he lost both a granddaughter and a daughter in complications from childbirth.
Oh.
And the daughter was only 25 years old. And then just a couple of years later, the same thing happened. He lost another grandchild and daughter in childbirth.
Now, how old was she?
She was 27.
That's sad. How'd it go after that?
There was a second wave of deaths. In 1834, his granddaughter died. And then the following year, he lost both a son and a daughter. And I have their burial records.
So if my numbers are right, he lost 7 family members in 7 years.
That's right.
I mean, that had to take a toll on this guy.
All that loss was too much for him. By 1837, he was on his deathbed, and he died that year on the property at the age of 74, and I have his burial record.
Please tell me it got better for Maria once Jose was gone.
I wish that were the case. Between 1840 and 1845, Maria suffered a wave of deaths of her own. She lost 3 of her daughters, all in their 30s.
What happens with Maria?
Maria lived to the age of 90.
Okay.
And she died in 1858, probably on the property. Here's her burial record.
So all these deaths, all this tragedy that this family suffered didn't happen until they got onto the property where my clients live now.
That's right.
You're the genealogist. Have you seen a lot of this?
Not at this level. It seemed like they suffered more loss than a lot of the families I've researched.
I encountered a tiny little old woman. She said she was about 67. She is definitely in like some kind of mourning outfit. She's dressed in all black. She said this location belongs to her.
So as a little bit of a history on the property there, a lot of death with the original homeowner. And apparently, back in 1776, pretty easy to get your hands on 10,000 acres of property in California.
10,000, man. That's
10,000 acres.
I don't want to mow that lawn.
That's crazy. Imagine the landscaping. But a lot of death. He and his family suffered death, almost like 2 deaths a year. And now they brought in a psychic to the property, and they did a reading on the house. There are multiple different entities in the house. There's an old woman, ghost who hates cats and animals in general, considers them to be dirty, considers them to be just an overall nuisance, and pushes the cat around. And then the psychic comes in and says, by the way, it's not just your house that's haunted. It's the entire property around here. They interview the neighbors. The neighbors also have had hauntings and have seen shadow people. The psychic says, basically, this entire property, there is this, on the other side, on the ghost side, there is like this wall of goo that is preventing these apparitions and these spirits from moving on. It's almost like a barrier, an id wall, and they are basically confined to this property, and the living are forced to occupy the same space as the dead. So either you can deal with it or you can move out. And that's basically what this guy says.
So, guys, not for nothing, but you got hundreds of dead people trapped outside your front door. It doesn't sound too good.
Yeah.
No, it don't sound good at all.
No, it doesn't sound good at all. And at the end, they basically came to the conclusion that it's easier to just move and sell the house than have to hire priests and a rabbi and religious experts and spiritual experts to come in, do seances and cleanse the house over and over again. That'll just really rack up the bill. And so they decided to move in hopes that they will have a better health, just a better life in general. Now, they did discover that there was significant water problems in the area that did lead to some health consequences, but not the overall mood, the heaviness that a lot of people in the neighborhood in this particular house have felt over the years. But this paranormal sickness kind of led me to think, I've read a lot of other stories about other paranormal encounters in which people get sick. And so I'll bring this up on screen. So what we were commonly referring to as a ghost sickness, Joe, is an actual thing. Like there is a ghost sickness. I'll bring this up on screen. Ghost sickness is a cultural belief among some traditional indigenous people in North America. People who are preoccupied or consumed by the deceased are believed to have suffered from ghost sickness. So it is what they're saying is like you're so obsessed with people that you've lost in your life, you become sick from it. Reported symptoms can include general weakness, loss of appetite, suffocation, recurring nightmares, those kinds of things.
I have a constant sore throat, swollen glands, fevers, my muscles ache and are weak. I am totally exhausted all the time.
I don't think that's part of ghost sickness.
I have heart palpitations.
You don't know.
I can't concentrate. I forget things. I get confused.
But that is the overall Wikipedia approved definition of ghost sickness. But if anybody dares to remember some of my segments on Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of times when people go and visit these highly energized areas such as Skinwalker Ranch, people can fall ill, whether it's from just a migraine headache, you have complications with your heart, there is maybe some degree of radiation poisoning, or just an overall feeling of being ill. That happens quite a bit. Also, just not basically confined to specific places. There are stories of people who have encountered weird, I don't even want to say if I want to consider them creatures, but possibly. So I've touched on the phenomenon of the black-eyed kids. Well, the story, the overall general creepy synopsis or paraphrase version of the black-eyed kids are children who have basically blackened eyes will sometimes appear at people's homes. Typically at like an older couple, an adult couple's house. They'll knock on the door and the people who answer the door is like, oh my God, these children are lost. Why don't you come in, sit down, and we will find out if we can find your parents, your guardian. We'll call the cops to make sure that you get back to where you need to get to. Well, they bring them in, and the children are hanging around on the couch. They're petting the dog. They're petting the cats. The next thing you know, they call the cops. Before the cops arrive, the black-eyed children will leave. They'll vanish pretty much without a trace. What's left is a rash of sickness, almost like a radiation poisoning is left with the family. And sometimes those people die. Now, that's not the same as what was happening in that haunted house from San Jose that we just played clips from. But it is a paranormal sickness. Also, in addition to black-eyed kids, sometimes when people have a Bigfoot encounter, they will experience weird physical ailments. This is from my friend's YouTube channel, The Confessionals. I was texting Tony this morning, the host of The Confessionals, like, hey, do you have any personal accounts or stories of people who have encountered a dogman or a Bigfoot that have become physically ill, that have some sort of weakness or some sort of a sickness after encountering or being in close proximity of one of these cryptids? He said, yeah, my brother had that happen to him. And so I'll play this clip from, I believe they were in Pennsylvania at the time. So this was, you can check it out. So this is a haunted World War II POW camp from that video. And they were out in Minchaw State Forest when they encountered something. It probably, they think it was a Bigfoot howl, but this is the aftermath of that.
It was just a culmination of a bunch of things all at one shot. And there's video evidence of us, our reactions to it. Yeah. And we kind of got out of there quick, right? Within a short amount of time after that noise.
Tell them about what you experienced though in that moment you didn't tell me about until we got in the truck later.
Not gonna lie, I started to feel a little sick. And by a little, I mean a lot. I almost threw up at one point.
Do you think it was the humidity?
I have no idea what it was, but I really felt sick. It was back when it was the first, it was when we heard the whoop.
Really? You should have said something. There could have been something affecting you.
I don't know.
That's what happens sometimes with people when there's paranormal activity around, they get sick.
It just made me feel very sick, and that's kind of why I was like, yeah, I'm good to go back to the truck. Because I really felt like I was gonna throw up until we started to get back where we found that arrow. Do you know what I mean? The arrow marker.
Yeah.
I guess I should have said something. I just didn't think it was video worthy.
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah. That's a common thing for paranormal stuff. Is
definitely. I didn't know that actually. So
there you go. His brother got sick. Whether it was directly attributed to the encounter with Bigfoot or maybe it was nerves, it's not an unheard of story. Like they said, you encounter the paranormal. If you're sensitive, you're gonna get sick. You're gonna feel it.
I have a constant sore throat.
No, he experienced I think vomiting and nausea pretty much from that. But it's just not Western cultures that face some sort of paranormal sickness. In Muslim cultures, they have an entity called the Djinn, which I haven't dived into yet because I'm very skeptical about covering it, because once you start talking about them, they might start appearing. But this is from livescience.com. Supernatural Djinn seen as cause of mental illness among Muslims. And this just goes into the cultural belief that the Djinn in the Muslim culture is the catalyst or cause of some of the mental illness that may occur in that population. Now, Live Science is obviously not buying into this one bit, but that is a deeply held belief in the Muslim faith that jinns do exist. And they have a very particular way of acting and interacting with this realm.
This is DJINN, right?
Yeah, you can spell it with a D. In Live Science, they dropped the D and just went with JINN.
You never drop the D.
No, you want that D. You got to drop that D deep.
Yes.
If you can. If you can drop it deep, you should. And there are obviously many stories of UFO encounters, people who've come in close contact with a UFO craft that have had severe physical illnesses. There's stories from the early 80s. There's one such story that a mother and I believe a sister and a daughter were driving down the road. They see a diamond-shaped aircraft that is spitting hot blue and white flames out of the bottom of it, hover over top the road. They get out of the car. They approach a little bit closer. Well, they got out of the car because their engine was cut off. Their entire car died. They got out of the car to check it. As they approached a little bit, they felt the heat. They felt a burning. They went back into the car. And when the mother put their hands on the steering wheel, it was gushy. It was mushy, almost like their hands could just like sink into it. It was like so hot. The entire car was heated up. The diamond-shaped aircraft, UFO, zipped off into the distance, and following it were right around 20 helicopters. And this took place in Texas. They went home, and over the course of the next week or two, all of the entire family got violently ill. They went to go checked out at the local hospital, and they said that they were basically suffering from radiation sickness. So not that dissimilar from some other stuff that we've heard. And for my last little tidbit on paranormal sicknesses is this one from 1970. This takes place in Finland. There are two men. They were out skiing. They heard a loud buzzing sound and a flash of light, and they saw a flash of light in the sky. The light was reddish in color, and then a gray mist started to envelop it. They noticed that the object was about 10 feet round when it landed down. So they decided to approach it. Decided, hey, we're out skiing. Let's go check out this disc that just landed down not very far away. Well, they saw when they were about 20 feet away from this disc-shaped thing, they saw a creature about 3 feet tall. It had slanted, narrow shoulders. It had a pale, waxy face with almost like a hook-like nose, small ears. It was wearing green overalls with dark green boots. So kind of dressed like an elf, I suppose. It was wearing a pointy helmet. It had white gloves on with like claw-like fingers, and it was holding a black box with a round opening that was emitting a yellow pulsating light. The creature pointed the box at the men. A reddish-green mist started to appear from the UFO and the box, kind of enveloping the men a little bit. Large sparks erupted from the box in the UFO. The men felt as though their body was going numb. Their bodies were going numb. The men said, to hell with it, we're going to abandon our skis, and they tried to flee to their cabin as quickly as they could. They got back to their cabin, and they started feeling body pains all over. They started vomiting, memory loss, headaches. They got checked out, and they had the classic symptoms of radiation poisoning after daring to approach an elf with a black box. So take that for what it's worth. Now, there's just different types of paranormal illnesses. The last few are obviously much more extreme and deadly on the radiation poisoning side of it. The earlier, when it comes to encountering ghosts and apparitions, it seems to be mostly mood related with prolonged sicknesses such as coughs, stuff that is almost like a common cold kind of thing, but can quickly escalate to something a little bit more deadly, especially when taking a reference to the earlier clip I played about the historical aspect of all the people that died on that property. So watch where you go, people, and if you got ghosts around you, make sure they're good ones so they don't make you sick, okay? Thank you.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links.